Welcome everyone to tonight's webinar with Jessica Haynes is our presenter tonight, and she's going to be talking all about blended classrooms and distance learning, which is perfect for this time. So I do want to tell you a couple of things before we get started. I have muted everyone except myself and Jessica so that we don't have interruptions during the presentation. I know we all hate it when someone calls over the loudspeaker or someone calls and interrupts and it throws off your train of thought. So if by chance you do have audio, please use that chat feature to converse and ask questions or comment. The chat feature is on the pop-up that pop-up box that is it's on the right when it comes up, but you can move it. The chat is at the very bottom. So if you just expand that, you can type in the box and share it with us, and I'll be monitoring the chat for Jessica. That way we don't have any interruptions with audio and we can still talk with each other. Also, if there's something that you want or need, maybe on a slide, we will have this webinar. I am recording it and we will be posting it in just a couple days. You'll get a link to that post. So you can always go back and revisit things later. So let's go ahead and get started. Jessica Haynes is our presenter tonight, and she has been teaching for 7 years in Alabama. She's certified in social studies education as well as English language arts. Those two go perfectly together. She's been working with social studies school services for 6 years now, and she does a multitude of things: curriculum maps, she conducts webinars and trainings, and writes blog posts. And Jessica, are you doing a micro-credential too with blended learning?
So far, I am not right now.
You haven't yet, okay. I thought maybe they were adding that in. Awesome. Well, Jessica, go ahead and get started. I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. I am Jessica Hayes, and like Melissa said, I am an active classroom trainer. So welcome to this evening's webinar on maximizing the benefits of a blended classroom, teaching with maps, atlases, and digital programs. So here is our agenda for tonight's webinar. We're going to start by discussing what blended learning is. Then we're going to look at a few models of blended learning just pretty briefly. And then finally, we're going to look at Nostrum World and some activities that will enhance your blended learning classroom. So to start with, I want to just kind of briefly discuss what blended learning is. Some of you may be in a blended learning classroom environment. Some of you may not know what it is and here to kind of hear more about it. And so there can be a lot of confusion as to what the definition is because of so many educational terms and approaches out there. And so that definition can get easily misunderstood. But according to blendedlearning.org, so blended learning is actually made up of 3 parts that you see on your screen. The first is that it is any formal educational program in which a student learns at least in part through online learning and in part in a brick and mortar location. Secondly, there has to be some element of student control over time, place, path, and or pace. And then third, the online and the brick and mortar learning, that needs to be cohesive instruction. So I believe the big part of this definition that sets it apart from other educational initiatives is that of the online learning and student control. So to be a blended learning environment, students need to do part of the learning from the internet. And so that does not mean that they just complete a Google form or a Google Doc, or you show a video clip online from YouTube or whatever in the classroom. Instead, they must actually learn the content online. So if not, it's not any different from online instruction in the classroom. So students must be able to control how they learn, such as the pacing, how fast or slow a student learns. It could also, students can have control over the location. Are they learning in a school or a training center? They could also control the timing, such as when they learn, and the pathway, which is the applicable content to their career path. So the last thing that is important to note about blended learning in regards to its definition is cohesive instruction. The blended approach instruction must be done in a way that complements one another and not duplicate one another. So in other words, the online and brick and mortar location learning should not provide the exact same content. So there are many different models of blended learning that you can implement into your classroom. So as you can see, there are 7 different models. You have the enriched virtual, the flipped classroom, lab rotation, individual rotation, flex, a la carte, and station rotation. But I'm going to really just touch on one that might look more like your daily life now, which is the enriched virtual. So enriched virtual is similar to full-time online learning because it allows for students to complete most of their coursework online at home or outside the school. However, students do attend school for a required face-to-face learning sessions with the teacher. So, but instead of attending school every day, enriched virtual programs may not require daily attendance at school. So some may only require students coming in twice a week. So, and there's also, as you can see, the flipped classroom. That one is gaining a little bit more popularity. I tried it out once, one year, and I ended up actually abandoning it halfway through. So it takes a lot of preparation to get it started. But with the flipped classroom, it's actually what you do is you flip the traditional classroom learning experience. So at home, students learn content through the internet. Then when they come to school, they have a teacher-guided practice or projects. Station rotation, that's another one that elementary teachers, they use that approach more. They, use a lot of stations. It could be, a station could be teacher-led instruction, a second could be online learning, and a third could have collaborative student learning activities. So like I said, elementary teachers probably use this a lot more, but I think it could be easily implemented into the secondary classroom as well. I'm not going to really touch as much on the other models of blended learning, but if you would like to read up on them, they're fully detailed at blendedlearning.org. So as a social studies teacher, ideally we want to be in the classroom to guide our students through a lesson, and we may use maps or atlases to supplement our lessons to give our students an idea of time and place. However, it is difficult to do that, when we're not in the classroom. But Nostrum World, that is a great program to help you aid in the time of distance learning and also for the blended learning classroom. So when you log into Nostrum World, you see these 3 icons named the geographer, the researcher, and the explorer. And each icon offers a way for students to become engaged with maps or atlases, learn geography skills, as well as history content. And since blended learning is about learning in a brick and mortar location and online in some way, so you will see that it is very easy to utilize these functions for a blended learning model. Or, since we are all in quarantine, it's easy to use for the discipline learning approach. But I want to first begin by looking at the geographer icon. So this map is the first thing that appears once you click on the icon, and it is very interactive, and there's a lot of ways that you can use this mapping program.
So you may be up there, it's back.
Is my sound going in and out?
No, it just did that one time, but it stayed for a little while. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that you were able to stop, that you knew we could not hear you. So
okay. Oh, okay, I did not know that. Thank you for letting me know.
Continue now.
Did you miss a lot? I'm sorry. Okay, so on the right-hand side. Go ahead.
Just a couple, maybe it was less than a minute, so you're good.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so on the right-hand side, you're going to notice numerous of icons that are going to help you navigate the program. So the first is a map icon. So when you click it, you will see various maps generate for different grade levels. I clicked on the secondary U.S. history maps. And as you can see, there's several different maps to choose from to supplement your U.S. history course. And since this is actually a screenshot, this is not a live version, there are more maps to see if you were to scroll down. I ended up choosing the Great Exchange map, and this is what all of the maps look like if you were to click on them. One strategy that I love to do with maps or images is the I see, I think, I wonder. And this strategy can be easily applied here. If you go through trainings with us, if you view a lot of the webinars, this is a popular strategy that we use. So this is an I see, I think, I wonder graphic organizer that I just created really quickly. So with this map, you would have students actually examine the map and write down what they see. So some of the items that they see that were exchanged among the different continents, they would record it in that first column. So after they would record a few things, then they would write down, what does this exchange, what does it make them think, or what do they infer from this exchange? And then finally, what questions does this bring up? What questions do they have after examining this map? So in a blended classroom, the teacher can lead the students through this activity in a brick and mortar setting. However, the teacher can also provide students with this I see, I think, I wonder graphic organizer. You can upload it to your learning management system. You can even upload it to Nostrum World. It's very easy to do that for students to complete while they are at home. This I see, I think, I wonder, it's very easy for you to create, and there's also a lot that are already made that you can look for on the internet. I also wanted to point out this timeline that's at the bottom of this map, and timelines are at the bottom of a lot of these maps for students to read, and they can also help generate questions with the I see, I think, I wonder strategy. So for example, students might be interested to know more, have some questions about the bubonic plague in the Americas, because as you can see, I have it circled. It says the bubonic plague came to the Americas with the Spanish. So if they only heard about it in Europe, Asia, and Africa, that might be an example of a question that they may have. So now I'm back on the home page, and these maps are really, they're good for an introduction to a unit. A geography unit, a history unit. But what I'm going to show you is this next icon in the top right hand corner, and this adds layers to the maps. So you can have borders appear, political or physical features appear, and also a reference grid. So here I have the borders, the physical, and the political features layers added. So like I said, these maps are a good introduction to a unit. So let's say you're starting a unit on Europe. I actually zoomed in so you could see the continent. And then you can have students examine Europe and complete a strategy called New Q. And so I just created this graphic organizer for the New Q. So you can have students look at the map and record in that first column, what did they already know about Europe? And then in the second, what is something new they want to learn about Europe? And then what questions do they have? So again, this strategy is something you can use in the classroom, or you can assign the strategy to students online. Unfortunately, we do not have just a bank of graphic organizers in Nostrum World for you to pull and use, but like I said, it is very easy for you to upload your own graphic organizers into Nostrum World for students to use. So this third icon on the right-hand side is a glossary, and it shows the different features on the maps. So what I did is, go back, I clicked on mountains, and then an informative video appeared, and that would show students what a mountain is and how to find one. It asked them to find one on the map. And so for each of these different features, a different video or different little information will show up. And so this would actually be good for the elementary teachers, having their students pick out the different features on a map. But even if you're at the high school level, I don't think it would hurt to review this at the beginning of the year. It can help you generate prior knowledge and to figure out what students already know. So you can also have students create a presentation as a cumulative activity at the end of a unit. So when you click on the 6 icon on the right-hand side, a box will appear containing all the presentations that the students have created so far. So to create a new presentation, they would just click on the New Presentation tab, type in a name and a description if they would like to, and then click Save. So since I'm not showing you a live version, these are just screenshots. What you would have first saw once you hit Save is the actual full world map like you see on the homepage. But for whatever region, country, place you assign for students to research, I just wanted to show you some functions that students can use to create presentations. So what I did is I first zoomed in on North America because I titled my presentation Americas. And then I clicked on the toolbox in the bottom right-hand corner. And then this bar showed up with all the different functions for the presentation to help you create it. So using the text function, I first labeled the United States. And then you can take it further and have students label all the countries in North America. They can label their home state. There's a lot of ways that you can go about them labeling these maps. Then I used the ruler function to measure the distance across the United States. And really, I just wanted to show you this tool. I thought it was pretty neat. It can be used to measure any distances on the map. So as you can see, whatever students create here, this will be their first slide. And when students are ready for the next slide, they just hit the plus button in the upper left-hand corner. So here's what I chose to go on my second slide. I just moved down to South America. And here I wanted to show you the pinning function. So when you click the pin button, students, they just can place the pin on a particular location they have been studying or researching, and then up will pop a box to add a description to it. So students can label the location, add a few sentences about what they know, and also add an image or a video. So I pinned a location to the Amazon rainforest, and I decided to add a video that I found off the YouTube. And this is what it looks like when you hit save. So once students are done creating, they can save their presentations and share them with their teacher or other students in the class. And so this presentation tool works well, obviously in the virtual environment, but you can also use it in the blended learning classroom. You can have students create the presentation at home and then present it to the rest of their class. So really quickly, Melissa, do we have any questions before moving on?
Let me unmute. We've had some questions about how to access the resource. And so we have answered that in the chat box. And so that's where we're at right now, but feel free to post any and I'll keep check on those.
Okay. All right, I will move on then. So now would be back on the Nostrum World homepage, and I was going to click on the researcher icon. When you click on the icon, you're going to see all of the atlases that are available to you. This top row of atlases are dedicated to the middle school and high school levels. And when you click on one of these, they are all set up the same. So I'm just going to click on the Atlas of World History. So these atlases are great for blending and for distance learning. You have the option to share the full atlas with your students by clicking the share button beside Atlas Flipbook. You can also download the activities within the atlas to your computer to print for students to complete. And this is a helpful tool because not all students may have access to the internet while they're under quarantine. Here you can easily print the activities to send to students to complete if that is an option that's set out by your school system. Or when you complete or you click on interactive activities, you can choose which Atlas activity to assign students to complete online. And so these activities are great for integrating history and geography skills. Here, I'm going to view the first Atlas activity, which is called People Migrate Across the Earth. So to view it, you just hit the view button that looks like an eye. And this is what the online interactive Atlas activity looks like. So students can complete each item in the activity online individually, Or if you're inside the classroom, you can do this as a whole class activity, or you can divide the students into pairs to complete, or students can still do it, work on it independently. So that was pretty much everything about that icon. Is there any questions I need to stop and answer?
No, Jessica, you're doing great.
Okay, thank you. We'll keep on going. So finally, we have the Explorer icon. Here you will actually see all the curriculum maps designed to guide you through each unit of either world history, US history, or the regions of the world. So I'm going to show you world history curriculum map. So all three of those content areas, they are set up the same way. You will see the table of contents on the left, and Unit 1 will appear first. So here's a better look at Unit 1. All of the units are set up the same way. And these curriculum maps, they're very valuable. They're going to save you a lot of time planning, especially now, I know that, there's a lot of stress during this time, and this just takes a lot of the stress out of planning and trying to decide which activities to assign. So basically, as you can see, each unit will start with a close reading activity, and then it moves into mapping activities, and closes with assessment like quick writes, unit quizzes, and then a mapping project. And you can assign all these activities to your students for virtual learning, or you can pick and choose just based on your needs. So in a blended learning environment, these activities can be used to supplement what students learn in class. So here is what the close reading activity looks like. Each close reading is going to have just a brief passage followed by a question that allows students to practice a different close reading skill. So here students are working with cause and effect. And I've seen a few of these different activities, and some have students working on questioning skills, some are making inferences, others are summarizing. So they're really getting a lot of practice with these close reading skills. So here is what the mapping activities look like. Students would just work through each slide of the instruction to complete the activity. So if you were in the classroom, this is an activity that could be completed as a whole class, especially if this is the first time your class is actually working on an activity like this. It would probably be good to go through the first couple of slides together so they know how to use all of the mapping tools and functions. But you could also have students in pairs to complete it, and students can also work on it independently if you would like. But as you see on this screen, and this would be how it looks like in your account as well, this is the key, and this would be how it should look when students are done with all the pinning and the labeling. Here is the quick writes activity. So for each mapping activity, there's going to be a corresponding quick write. So you can pick and choose which quick write that you would like for your students to complete, or you can have them complete that full activity if you would like. And I think this would be a great formative assessment tool because you can quickly see what students learn from each activity that they did, and plus they're expressing their thinking in writing form. And then finally, this is an example of the mapping research project. These activities are great to use as summative assessments. Students are having to take what they learned from all of those activities and map their understanding here. And since this is called a mapping research project, it is treated as such, a research project. So the activity calls for students to write 2 to 3 paragraphs on the topic and include a bibliography page. So if you were in the blended classroom setting, you can have students complete it at home and then present it to the class at school. So just as an overview, a recap, Nostrum World activities are easy to incorporate into the blending learning environment. The activities are ready to be assigned virtually to students to supplement in-class learning. They can also be printed and used in the classroom setting. The geographer icon is used for students to really act like a geographer by identifying and locating places on a map. The researcher icon allows for students to dive into atlases and individual mapping activities, while the Explorer icon allows an easy way for teachers to plan lessons. Are there any questions?
All right, well, people are typing in their questions. I wanted to let you know that that last link I sent you, which is go.socialstudies.com/coronavirus, it is in the chat box. That is going to be the best tool for you to go to get that free access. I think much better than the free trial, because that probably only would last for a month. And it also has access not only to Nostrum World, but some other products for you if you're interested. Can these, Jessica, be put into Google Classroom?
Can Nostrum World be integrated into Google Classroom? Let's see. I think you could probably have the link to it, like copy and paste the links from these activities, but I would believe your students would need to have an account. Am I correct, Melissa, with that?
Right. My worry with the link is they'd still have to log in.
Right.
And I'm not sure if it would take you directly there. In Nostrum World, can you assign activities
You can. You can
like you
assign.
do in Active Classroom? So what you could do is just link to Nostrum World and then have them go to their assigned activities under their login there. So that would probably work.
Yes, and like I said, you can also upload your own activities within Nostrum World as well.
That is one that we're not 100% sure on. So I'm putting in help@socialstudies.com if you'd like to send just a little quick email asking that. And that way you would have the absolute correct answer on that one for you.
About
So
the Google.
I'm doing that one now about Google Classroom, yes. Can you import your classrooms into Nystrom? Into Nostrum World. Jessica, can you import your student
You
and
can
classes?
add your own students. I believe Nostrum, depending on what your system buys, they would upload your classes into Nostrum. But because that's how they do it for Active Classroom, am I correct, Melissa?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So if it's a full class and it depends on what your system has purchased, they would upload all your students into your account. However, there is a way for you to easily upload your classes into Nostrum Education. You can
If they
upload a
did,
class and you can also upload individual students as well.
yes, if they did not purchase that feature.
Correct.
Yes, awesome. So students all have to have an account to work with this. Yes, you would want students to have their own account because they can submit their work to you. So you definitely want them to have their own account. And once you have your account, the student account is also free and
But
through your account.
yes, if you had an account and the students did not have an account, I mean, there are ways for you to do these activities. You can, like I said, you can download those atlases to your computer and you can print them off for your students. You can do it that way, but it would probably, I mean, they would get the most out of it if they did have their own account.
Good point, Jessica. But like I said, once you create your account, your student accounts come with yours.
Right.
Make sure we got it. Is there any way to modify interactive lessons?
So, like, I guess edit them that are the
Edit.
pre-created activities.
Yes.
As far as I know, there is no way to actually edit those pre-made activities.
Can you create your own activities like in Active Classroom?
As far as I know, the only thing that you can have that is your own would be what you upload into Nostrum Education or Active Classroom.
Now, Megan, one thought could be that you give them the atlas or tell them where to go, and then you can modify the questions on your own if you wanted to,
Yes,
not necessarily use the questions that they had.
right.
One way to do that. That may be a help at socialstudies.com question. You guys are having some really good questions.
Good question.
Usually between the two of us, we can answer most anything, but you are really
Yeah,
having
I don't think we've been asked that question before.
yes. So if you don't mind, send a quick email to help@socialstudies.com. And we have the question that we get a lot. Miss Ann says, will we get a certificate for this webinar? You will get a certificate if you email help@socialstudies.com. They will generate you a certificate through that. So that email address again is help@socialstudies.com. And yes, we will be giving you a link to the webinar. Feel free to share it with anybody so you can purchase it for next year. That would be awesome. The resources are amazing, and I have not had enough experience with Nostrum World, so this was a very refreshing view of the product today. So thank you, Jessica, for your webinar. That was awesome. So yes, when you get your webinar link, it's just like a YouTube link. So you just feel free to share that. You can also go to socialstudies.com under professional learning, which you'll find at the very bottom. They have webinars listed, all the past webinars, and this one's, once the link comes out, they can also access it there if something happens and you lose that link. So I'd love that.
And the good thing about Nostrum World is if you are familiar with Active Classroom, it looks very similar. So like if you're really well versed in Active Classroom and finding activities and uploading your own activities or adding students, it looks very similar, Nostrum World does, to Active Classroom. So it will be very friendly.
How much is a school license? And that is a tough question. We have sales representatives, but if you do email help@socialstudies.com and ask who your sales rep is, they will absolutely get in touch with you or your school head or your central office, whoever they need to talk to. They would love to get the product to you. But as far as pricing, I do not have pricing on that. Jessica, do you have any idea what it would be?
I'm not sure, but what you said, yes, that's only thing I would know is just to email help, and because we have the sales representatives who have all of that information.
Jessica also has Pam Gothart's email up, and you're welcome to also get in contact with her if you'd rather talk to a person rather than help. But she is also available and she can get your questions to the correct people.
Yes, she is our professional learning director, so she will email you back. But the help desk is really good at getting back pretty quickly with you.
Yes, and I was in a training once, and the person that responded to me was actually one of the co-owners of the company. So they definitely care and want to make sure that you have all your questions answered.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I think if there's nothing else coming through, I think we could go ahead and talk about as soon as you close the window or I shut down the webinar, you are going to get access to a survey. If you'll please answer that survey and just help us to continue improving and growing and just let us know how we did tonight, that would be very helpful. So we appreciate that. And thank you all again. Thank you, Jessica, for all the time and all the I loved all the strategies that you put in there that we could use with anything. So thank you so much for sharing those with us tonight.
Thank you, and thank everybody. Thank you all for joining us this evening.
Yes, okay. We have one more question, so we won't go yet, but I wanted to make sure. Well, maybe I missed that. Okay, I think I just had a little tweak in the chat box. It just scrolled odd and went to something I thought we hadn't answered, but we have answered that. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording for everyone.